Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere. Tags, how's it going, man?
It's going good, dude. It's another Monday, and it's another day of learning about torn ACLs and Le'Veon Bell trade rumors and all sorts of fun stuff, man.
It was not a very fun week. Latavius Murray owners, everyone in the industry was really excited about him. His ECR was an RB1. The Vikings ran the ball 6 times. It was just a weird week. I feel like we say this every week, but this week especially.
Yeah, this week was a really weird one. I think everybody lost their survivor pools. I talked about it on the episode last night that I recorded with Dan, and it was something, man. It's hard to say that you don't want to overreact to 1 week of football, obviously, but when these things continually happen, we have to adjust, and we have to change our opinion on certain things and understand that the league is ever evolving, and that's our job, to let you guys know what is changing and what we would do with those changes.
Absolutely. By the way, if you all want to follow us on Twitter, it's at BobbyFantasyPro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. And so here's what we've got planned for today's show. It's not a very exciting waiver wire. We do have a few guys that we're going to talk about, and we're going to try to cover some really shallow leagues, like people who might be out there in even 8 or 10 team leagues. We're going to cover really deep leagues and give you some guys. But because we don't have as much to talk about, first of all, of course, we're going to do the injury and news, but eventually we're going to get on down to the mailbag. We've got some really good questions to hit up. Just a reminder to everyone listening at home, we do have a signed Todd Gurley throwback Rams jersey to give away to one lucky listener. You can submit an entry in 30 seconds by going to fantasypros.com/contest. Tags, let's start at the injury news with Baker Mayfield taking over for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I talked about this again on last night's show. We touched on it a little bit because it's like Bobby and I never get a chance to talk about the Thursday game, but Baker Mayfield obviously is, if you're in a 1 quarterback league, I think Baker Mayfield is still addable if you have a deep bench.
You really think so?
If you want to carry 2 quarterbacks, if you're platooning guys, I think Baker Mayfield is more than streamable. I don't think we saw it on the Thursday night game, but he's got a lot of mobility to his game that he didn't show off. I've talked about him.
Well, he caught the pass. That's mobile.
Yeah, that'll work. But no, it comes what I mean in that is he has, I call it Russell Wilson type upside, and a lot of people have compared him to Drew Brees, but I believe he's a lot more mobile than people have given him credit for. He's not the fastest guy. I think we saw that at the Combine when his 40 time was slower than even I expected.
Yeah, like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not the fastest guy. He rushes for 300 yards every year.
Exactly, but he's elusive. He has great awareness of what's going on around him. He is a throw-first quarterback, which is the same as Russell Wilson, but these guys are going to take off and run, and I think he's going to add 30, 40 yards rushing more often than he's not, which provides a solid floor. It does hurt that they let go Josh Gordon. I'm just sad that we never get to see Josh Gordon and Baker Mayfield, because that was going to be a duo that would have been so nice to have in Dynasty.
Antonio Callaway is going to be nice, though. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, I did my rest of the season rankings. I update them every single Monday, and I've got Baker right now at QB 18. I'm willing to adjust a little bit. I think he's more talented than Pat Mahomes, but he hasn't been in the NFL long enough. He plays under Hugh Jackson, so I'm not willing to put him up as a QB1 quite yet.
Yeah, I'm not jumping on the Mahomes grenade there with you, but Mahomes has always been this high ceiling guy. During the draft process, I think in my player profile, even though Trubisky was my favorite quarterback in the class, and that was before the Bears drafted him, by the way, even though he was my favorite, I said Mahomes always had the highest ceiling because his physical tools are something you can't find on the street.
But you think he's better than Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, better than Drew Brees, like everyone is saying? He's not an MVP, right?
Well, as of right now, if they had MVP voting, I think they probably would.
As of right now, in MVP voting, 1 year ago this time, Trevor Siemian would have won it.
I don't know if they would have gave it to Simeon, but so the thing is I'm torn on this Mahomes thing because I've watched the snaps that he's played, and I know that the numbers are ridiculous, and he's made some great throws, and he has athleticism, he creates time, he can throw on the move. There's a lot of good things he really does, but if you guys have watched those games and be honest with yourselves, he's left a lot on the field. He has not made all the throws he was supposed to. Now, granted, not every quarterback is going to make every throw, but he's missing some of the easier ones. His completion percentage this week was what did he do? 24 of 38, so it wasn't elite level, but again, he's got playmakers.
He also hasn't had any work with the first team offense because Hugh Jackson is just stupid.
Well, that's a story for a different podcast. We could do an entire episode on why Hugh Jackson.
So hold on, let me ask you before we move on. Dynasty League, you're taking Mahomes over Baker Mayfield.
Oh man, I know some people are gonna tell me that I'm high, but I still think I prefer Baker. I don't know though. So
There you go. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
the reason that I don't know if I'm positive with that is because like Hugh Jackson's still the coach, and I don't know who's gonna take over for the Browns. So there's no guarantee that they hire a good head coach. There's no guarantee that they bring in a great offensive mind. And knowing that Patrick Mahomes is tied to Andy Reid for the foreseeable future, I don't think. I mean, that's like a really big plus in Mahomes is like his box. He has Sammy Watkins for on the 3-year deal now. He has Tyreek Hill still on his rookie contract. Travis Kelce appears to be happy with what they're doing there in Kansas City. So
You're right.
The weapons are definitely, and coaching is in Patrick Mahomes' side. So I could understand why people would say Mahomes, but I think it's closer than one would think.
I think so too, man. Someone who's not even in that conversation is Josh Rosen. We just found out right before the show that he was handed the starter job in Arizona. I feel bad for him. He is going to get killed.
You know what? I obviously watching that game, being the Bears. That was one of the TVs on in the man cave. And Rosen, he has the same attitude on the field that he has off the field, and that's the part that irritates me. And I know some people are like, "Oh, I love that he's outspoken and that he has this total oh, I don't care attitude." That aggravates me when I see him on the bench after he throws a pick and he kind of just does this shrug like, okay. Like, I know he was put in
in his first game ever.
He was put in a bad position. I'm not going to, that was like the stupidest thing Steve Wilkes could have done. Now, Sam Bradford didn't play a great game. He didn't deserve to be in there, yada, yada. But why are you going to put him in with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter against the Bears defense, who has been arguably a top 3 defense this year that's been getting after the passer consistently behind that offensive line with a less than 100% Larry Fitzgerald? It made no sense to me. People talked about Jay Cutler and not liking his body language. Josh Rosen is a lot worse than Jay Cutler was.
I think you're right, man. I think he'll grow out of it a little bit. He's a smart kid. He'll figure it out. Man, here's the bad news. The real bad news. Jimmy Garoppolo out for the season, torn ACL. Just how much does this impact the guys like Dante Pettis, Pierre Garçon, Marquise Goodwin?
Well, Pettis unfortunately played behind Trent Taylor this week, so that's not good. He didn't.
Why? He was number 1 in snaps the week before. Why?
Dude, it's beyond comprehension. I had him in a few tournament lineups and it didn't work out. Obviously, he didn't catch a single ball.
And also, did you see that game? They were down they're down 14 points and they kick a field goal. Like with 5 minutes. Are you kidding me?
That they were getting blown out that entire game like it was a joke. I know that.
Yeah, but they would have been down 7 points, man.
Yeah, I mean that's if they get the touchdown, of course. But
they got yeah, I guess so. But
I really don't want anything to do with this 49ers passing attack under CJ Beathard.
No, not interested.
I mean, I'm going to go back and look at the numbers and kind of dig in a little bit more, but the offensive line has been giving Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of time. So that's one positive that Beathard has going for him.
I like Kittle with him. I think that's going to be overplayed because they played together in college or whatever, but
for sure.
It worked out well when Beathard was throwing to Kittle to start the season.
Yeah, and even when he wasn't playing very many snaps. So for sure. I mean, that's one of the players that I would consider okay. I think that Marquise Goodwin takes the biggest hit. I think I lowered him outside the top 40 wide receivers going forward. So, yeah, I'm definitely low on that passing attack.
All right, we've got 2 more pieces to talk about. A.J. Green, he was out. Tyler Boyd filled in admirably. He's been so impressive, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But apparently this is not a big deal. A.J. Green expects to play. Would you be worried at all?
There were 2 plays in that game that I thought he got hurt on, and I think that the second one may have been an extension from the first. So he dove for a touchdown in the end zone, and his knee got caught in the turf, and it popped him up, and it looked like it was a hip injury. Like the way his body came up off the ground, it looked like a hip injury, and he laid there, and then somebody thought it was a head injury because when his hip popped up, his head went down like it was a concussion. And then later in the game, he comes down awkwardly. They called it a groin injury, and it was like, what really happened here? And I still don't think we know the full extent of the injury. AJ Green has been the type of player is like if he's not 100%, he's usually not on the field. Like he doesn't play through injuries very often. So I'm curious to see if he practices because that would be a huge downgrade to that entire passing game.
I agree. I mean, I would love to see Tyler Boyd in that premium role. Like we saw Brandon LaFell excel in it. Just imagine Tyler Boyd. But yeah, I think A.J. Green, if he says he's playing, I would guess that he's playing. I'm not going to adjust my rankings too much. Evan Ingram also was injured. This one also doesn't seem to be a big deal. I mean, I guess they're doing tests. They put a brace on his knee after the game, so we'll see what happens. What do we do with this one? I mean, should you go out there and get a tight end if you own Evan Ingram, just in case?
I would. I told Dan on the show last night that I was worried because they ruled him out so fast. he went to the medical tent, and the doctor basically said, you're out for the game. And that's worrisome because if it's like an MCL sprain, sometimes you can't necessarily diagnose that right away. Like when you think about Doug Baldwin, when he hurt his knee, it's like, it's a sprain, and they could usually, there's not anything loose in the knee. It's more on a pain tolerance type deal. And this one, they ruled him out right away. So I didn't know if there was anything loose there, like it was an ACL injury.
I mean, wouldn't we know by now, though? I mean, we're recording this at 4:30 Eastern time on Monday. Wouldn't we know?
We tried waiting, but I don't know why they haven't come out with any conclusive results of the MRI yet. I mean, we had to wait. Garoppolo just came out not long ago. So it's very possible that something happens during the recording of this podcast. Like that could definitely pop up on my timeline. I'll pay attention, but it was worrisome for sure. But yeah, it's something to pay attention to, but we have to know by waivers. Like by the time waivers come out, you will know. Just pay attention to mine, to Bobby's social media, and we'll definitely post something letting you know. Because like, if it's not an ACL, it's probably an MCL sprain, and he's probably going to miss a week or two. So I would still prepare to grab a tight end off the waiver wire.
All right, Tags, we're going to get into the waiver wire here in just a minute and our top pickups of the week. I'm curious to hear who yours is going to be. I think I know because number one seems pretty obvious, but you never know. First, though, a word from one of the sponsors of today's show, Leesa Mattresses. A quality night's sleep helps you recover from distractions faster, prevents burnouts, make better decisions, improve your memory, and overall just make fewer mistakes. It's not marketing, it is just science. To design a better mattress, Leesa leveraged 30-plus years of experience and hundreds of hours of testing to develop the perfect mattress for all body shapes and sleeping styles. I have a Leesa mattress, and it is seriously amazing. I sleep so much better since I got this thing. Leesa's mission is to provide a better night's sleep for everybody through their 110 program, where they donate one mattress for every 10 they sell. That's more than 26,000 mattresses and counting, and Leesa strives to leave the world a better place than they found it, but that doesn't stop with mattress donations. Together with the Arbor Day Foundation, Leesa plants one tree for every mattress they sell. They're committed to planting 1 million trees by 2025. Don't miss these summer savings. Get $160 off a Leesa mattress at leesa.com/fantasypros. That's LEESA.com/fantasypros. All right, Tag. So the way we've done this before is we only talk about players who were owned in less than 50% of leagues. So these guys are all out there in at least 50% of leagues. Who is your number one guy of this bunch?
Yeah, it's kind of odd to me that he's still out there. It says he's 44.5% owned in Yahoo leagues. That's going to go up, obviously, even by the time you guys listen to this episode. But Mike Williams is my number one waiver wire ad. I have Mike Williams as a top. I think I put him as my number 38 receiver for the remainder of the season, which means that he's basically a back end wide receiver 3. The reason I put him there is because it's in a territory of wide receivers where you don't want to rely on those guys basically every week. They're not going to be every week producers, but I think Mike Williams has a higher ceiling than any of them. We talked before the season, Bobby, saying that if Mike Williams led this team in touchdowns, we wouldn't be shocked at the end of the year. And, here we are sitting here through week 3, and he's got 3 touchdowns.
He's got to be the favorite over the field right now.
Yeah, Mike Williams looks like a man out there. He just looks phenomenal. He just looks...
The plays, too. I mean, it wasn't just like... He's not like Mike Evans, where he's just a big dude, and he's in the right situation. He's getting a lot of targets, and he comes down with the jump balls. He's like making plays and diving into the end zone. He looks so athletic and huge.
Yeah. He made a contested catch over Marcus Peters. That was just awesome. And then Peters got hurt, and then they took advantage of that, and he got a second touchdown. Mike Williams is he's everything that the Chargers were hoping he would be, honestly. When they drafted him with a top 10 selection, they wanted him to be kind of the replacement for Antonio Gates in the red zone, and he's living up to that bill. He's outproduced Tyrell Williams every single step of the way, and I think he's going to become the number 2 option. He's hurting Keenan Allen right now with his ceiling. Like, honestly, he's hurting him, and that's crazy.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's not a matter of, is Mike Williams going to be able to hold on to the job over Travis Benjamin anymore? It's how much of the work can he steal from Keenan Allen because he's that good?
Yep, it's kind of a slow start for Keenan Allen. I think we saw that last year too. So Mike Williams is a stud, and I have no idea why he's not owned in more leagues.
I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. I did not think I had him ranked a lot lower this week because it was against the Rams, right? And he tore up their secondary. He was phenomenal. I don't have him number 1, though. I have Calvin Ridley number 1. Yeah, he had the 3 touchdowns. He had all those yards. What was it, 127? But I go back and I watch the game tape on him, and he looks more polished than Mike Williams. Yeah, I think Mike Williams has more of a raw skill set, and Mike Williams is behind Keenan Allen. Ridley's behind Julio Jones. But in terms of being NFL ready, I think Ridley is there right now. I mean, he has this burst. I was watching on NFL Game Pass with a condensed game film, every single play with Calvin Ridley, right? He's got this burst. After he makes a cut, he accelerates faster than anybody I've seen in the NFL. I mean, I'm sure there's guys who are right up there with him, but Calvin Ridley is elite with that. He's going to create separation. He's going to get big plays. I don't think this was any kind of fluke. I think it was just a matter of how much work is he actually going to get? Oh, wait, he's really good. He's definitely going to get all the work.
Yeah, that's why Ridley on his second touchdown, like, he totally goofed the corner because, like, so Ridley, one of the things that I watched on tape when I was watching him in college was that he can stop on a dime. Like, he could be full speed in a route and just, like, legitimately come to a stop. And that's hard to defend because he's got the speed to beat you over the top. So PJ Williams came down. So the way it was, he started to run it almost looked like straight up the field. And then he went to slow down to, like, almost do a curl route. The corner bit on that, and he just took off straight up the field, and it was like no contest from that point. Like the corner, there was no way he was going to catch him.
It was such good footwork, man. It was beautiful. He had completely stopped.
Yeah, but the reason that I have Ridley at number 2 behind Mike Williams is because, like, Julio Jones isn't going to see 6 targets every game. Like, Julio Jones is going to see double-digit targets more often than not. Mohamed Sanu is still there. Obviously, they're going to get Devonta Freeman back, who contributes in the passing game. I just feel like there's so many options here. Now, the attempts are going to be...
That's fair, but I mean, I think Calvin Ridley is the number 2. I think Mike Williams is the number 3 with Melvin Gordon getting so many targets.
It just depends on how you look at the targets. I don't know if I would say Ridley's even the clear-cut number 2. He probably is the clear-cut number 2, but Mike Williams is starting to become that guy. I don't think they're going to need to check down to Melvin Gordon as much as they necessarily have so far.
Who cares if they need to? He's incredible. I would do it anyway, man.
It's kind of like a 1A, 1B situation. I have no issue grabbing either one of these guys off the waiver wire.
Agree. I've got them so close in terms of fab.
Yeah, like these guys are just stupidly underowned, and I have no idea why they weren't on a roster before this. Actually, the top 4 guys we're probably going to talk about should have been on rosters already.
Agree. Yeah, and if you look at the schedules for both these guys, Mike Williams gets San Francisco, Oakland, Cleveland, Tennessee. 3 of those are home games. Calvin Ridley gets Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, Tampa, New York Giants. 3 of those are home games. Both of those schedules are beautiful. If you want to take these guys for the next 4 weeks and put them in as your wide receiver 3, you can do it without hesitating. I would feel great about it.
Yeah, and the 49ers have been destroyed against the pass. So it's like
Mike Williams is a lock in DFS. Don't even go back and think about it.
And Richard Sherman is out for a couple weeks with a calf injury. So that Chargers team needs a get right moment, and I think that they're going to use it this week against the 49ers.
So standard 12-team half PPR league. When we're talking about these guys, that's what we're talking about most of the time. So Tags, in that situation, you've got $100 to spend. How much do you spend on Ridley? How much do you spend on Williams?
Oh, man, they're bull. I mean, it's not very often you get a guy that I would put in the top 40 for the remainder of the season. So, I mean, I guess Mike Williams, I'd be willing to go, 25 if I needed to, if I needed a wide receiver. And Ridley's in that same territory. I'd probably put Ridley at 20 to 22 range. I don't know if you're probably going to have to spend more to get Ridley, if I'm being honest with you, because Ridley, after the game, he just had 146 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he matched Julio Jones' 2017 touchdown output in one freaking game.
Yeah.
So he has 4 touchdowns in the season because he scored the week before. I mean, it's just nuts, man. Calvin Ridley was going to benefit from Julio Jones. And by the way, Bobby, I mean, you went back and watched it. I tweeted out, Calvin Ridley was matched up with Ken Crawley and PJ Williams throughout that game. And then as the game went on and he destroyed them for the 3 touchdowns, they decided to move Marshawn Lattimore over to Calvin Ridley. And then Julio Jones proceeds to catch a bomb that Matt Ryan completely underthrew. It's fantastic because this is going to open up things for Julio. Julio obviously opens up things for Calvin Ridley. It's just, you have 2 number 1 options, because I always said that Calvin Ridley I loved him coming out, like loved him, the player. I was refusing to talk about the metrics thing. Like, he reminded me of Stephon Diggs and Antonio Brown as a route runner. So to have him and Julio was kind of like unfair. So even Matt Ryan can be made to look good with these 2 wide receivers, and knowing they're deep.
Even Matt Ryan? What are you talking about? Matt Ryan is so good, dude.
Matt Ryan has been average throughout his career. He had 1 MVP season.
Pro Football Focus said he was the number 2 quarterback last year.
I'm just saying.
He just had 2 years ago, he had one of the best seasons of all time.
I think if you take away Julio Jones from this offense, I don't think Matt Ryan would be a household name. He definitely wouldn't have been an MVP candidate. But what I'm saying is, like, if you watch Matt Ryan, his deep ball doesn't have it. Like, he's literally lofting it up there and just hoping his receivers run under it. Like, he doesn't have a strong arm or anything. He doesn't have a bullet to throw the ball underneath. He's a smart dude. Like, I like Matt Ryan as a competent quarterback. I think he's very competent. I don't think he's elite, but these 2 wide receivers can make him look like that at times.
Okay, man. I will just disagree on that one. And I'm also not spending quite as much. I think you're a little conservative on where you have Mike Williams. I've got him as my wide receiver 32. I've got Ridley wide receiver 27 rest of the season. I believe it, man. When I initially, first thing I did this morning is I went and I reset my rest of the season rankings, which I don't know why I did it before I watched the tape. After I watched the tape, I was like, oh man, this Calvin Ridley, every couple years you get Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans as a rookie. They just blow the NFL up. Obviously, his upside's going to be limited because of Jones. He is that polished, man. And I think it's going to kind of be like what we saw with Juju last year, right? He had Antonio Brown ahead of him. He's one of these special wide receivers as a rookie, and he comes in and he dominates. I think Calvin Ridley's going to do the same thing, man. I would trust him every week that he's not playing either Jacksonville, Denver, or L.A. And really, I guess L.A. is susceptible to Mike Williams showed us.
Yeah, no, LA, obviously now they're down 2 corners because Marcus Peters is hurt. He's apparently going to miss a couple weeks. And then you have Aqib Talib, who left the stadium in a walking boot. He's probably not going to play this week. So it's just like there's a lot of things going on here. And it's going to be a weird game on Thursday because you have the Vikings coming off that blowout and, traveling across the country to play on a Thursday night, which is something the NFL shouldn't be doing. And then you had the Rams, who have basically been at home.
Yeah, they care about safety, right? This is not safe.
And then the Rams are at home. They literally have been at home since week 1. Since their week 1 game against Oakland, they went home, which is right down the state. Obviously, like they had to go down the street to Oakland, and they've been home for the last few weeks. So it's like, I don't understand what the NFL is doing here with the schedule makers. But it seems like there's obviously, like, this game on Thursday night has so many questions to it. We'll talk about it later, though.
Sure. All right, man. So we've got the same number 1 and number 2, Ridley and Williams. Before we get to number 3, I want to ask you, if Kenny Golladay is available in someone's league, and he's still out there in 45% of leagues, is he better than Ridley and Williams?
Yes.
I think so, too.
Yep, I have Golladay at number 32, and I'm probably too low. I might put him up to like 28. I think he's definitely in the wide receiver 3 range. And honestly, like looking at everything, he might be better than Marvin Jones going forward.
I don't know about that, maybe. I mean, he's more talented than Jones, but Jones was a top 5 wide receiver last year in fantasy.
Well, that's the thing, is like Jones is being used in this deep role now, where Golladay is being used in so many different places, where it's like if Marvin Jones doesn't connect on a deep ball for a touchdown, he's probably not going to live up to a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 numbers, whatever. But Golladay continually gets targeted. He has 5 more targets than Marvin Jones does in the year, and he's been ultra efficient.
He's good. He is good.
Yeah, I mean, I underestimated this passing attack, and it's kind of like the Rams. It's like, the NFL has turned into such a passing attack. Like this, there's the numbers that are going up over the first 3 weeks are bonkers. Like legit out of this world. Like the passing games are out. Like it's beyond like my wildest dreams in terms of pass attacks. So when you basically ignore the tight end position, like the Lions, like the Rams have done, you have the ability to produce 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers. And I was wrong. For those of you who I said that Kenny Golladay was not going to be every week fantasy viable, I was wrong. He absolutely is. And I would consider him over Marvin Jones for the rest of the season. I don't have it there quite yet, but I have no issue if you say that that's what you feel.
I've got him wide receiver 25, so I'm with you. And you know what? If those guys weren't in the way, I would say that he is on the verge of being a wide receiver 1 because this guy is superb. Kenny Golladay is so talented, man.
He's looked good.
Everything, the athleticism, the body control, the hands, the awareness, everything about him, he could be dominant in the right offense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he might be in this offense.
yeah, you're right. Yeah. He might just say, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, move out of my way because I'm the wide receiver 1 here. Matthew Stafford's going to get his. I'll be watching him moving forward. He's my number 1 pickup. We'll get to some running backs here in a second, but my next 2 guys are also wide receivers. Tyler Boyd comes in at number 3 for me. Yeah, he's not anywhere close to as talented as Ridley or Mike Williams, but he's getting it done. Andy Dalton throws to him under pressure, and he's just one of these guys that he's clever. The way that he finds seams, he's smart. He has great awareness of the field, man.
He does. The thing is with Boyd, it's like I don't know how much like his production falls on because James Bradbury was matched up with AJ Green, John Ross, who's struggling with confidence right now. Andy Dalton, by the way, missed a throw. The interception he threw when targeting Ross down the field. There was someone from Cincy tweeting out videos and showing basically why John Ross is not to blame for some of the stuff that Dalton has done. Like some of the throws are just very questionable. But Tyler Boyd, basically, whenever Andy Dalton starts having to move because he's feeling pressure, he just dumps it off to Tyler Boyd, and he's racking up the receptions, and he's making it happen after the catch. So he's getting there. I have him as my number 7 player. I don't want to trust him. I would rather take someone who has a higher ceiling, I think, than him. Like, I know he's shown a ceiling the last couple weeks, but I think we've seen the best part of Tyler Boyd is that he's going to have this year.
So who is that for you then?
I think Geronimo Allison definitely deserves to be higher. He's still owned in just 34% of leagues for whatever reason. And then Chris Godwin. We've talked about Godwin. We've talked about these guys, and it's like to see them continually on the waiver wire. I don't like having to talk about them every show because we've already mentioned the reasons why they should be owned, but they're still under 50%, which means that more than half the people out there listening might have a chance to get these guys. So Boyd is definitely more accessible in a multitude of different leagues, whereas like these guys are usually owned. So Tyler Boyd might in fact be the number one wide receiver on your waiver wire available.
Yeah, I love Geronimo Allison. I love Chris Godwin. Obviously, I've talked about it a ton, even in the preseason. But I just think Allison's the number 3. Godwin is the number 3 in his offense. And I don't know how much longer they will continue to produce the way that they have. I mean, Godwin, we'll find out what happens here tonight. But Tyler Boyd, if he's the number 2 in this offense, and A.J. Green is going to keep getting shadowed by all these best guys, I love what I'm seeing in Boyd. He's just going to get open.
Well, the thing is like, so with Geronimo Allison, I talked before the season saying like James Jones, like even a mediocre talent like him can put up elite numbers with Aaron Rodgers. So his magical 2012 season, James Jones had 64 receptions. Allison right now is on pace for 69. Jones had 784 yards that season. Geronimo is on pace for 1,115 yards. James Jones had 14 touchdowns that season. Allison is on pace for 11 touchdowns. I actually think he's the number 2. I think Randall Cobb is well past his prime.
He looks better than Cobb. Yeah, you're right.
If you take away that long touchdown he had against the Bears on that kind of like broken play where the safety just kind of jumped out, tried to jump a route, and basically was just bad. Randall Cobb didn't have to do much, but outside of that catch, he has 125 yards on 26 targets. He's dropped 2 passes. He's fumbled the ball twice. He's just not playing very well. He doesn't look good. The bigger concern, I guess, is the offensive line because Brian Bulaga, the right tackle for the Packers, apparently has a back injury, and he might be forced to miss some time. That's a problem for Aaron Rodgers.
All right, so who is your number 4 then? I mean, I guess you've got Allison and Godwin. Is that correct?
Godwin, yeah.
So who's your number 5 then?
Number 5, I have Buck Allen. I mean, the thing is like it's.
I've got Allen number 5 as well.
Yeah, it depends on like what your team needs. Like if you need a running back, obviously you take Allen. If you need a wide receiver, you take Boyd. But Allen is. I like him just because of this matchup. I don't think like he's like a player going forward. I don't think he's someone that I like want to make sure that I have on my roster. But if you need someone to spot start this week, I think Allen can fill that role because they're going to play against the Steelers. And this game is taking place in Pittsburgh, which if you guys have paid attention to anything I've said, it's that Ben Roethlisberger puts up points at home. Doesn't even matter who the defense is. Really does not even matter. So they're going to put up points. And then if you go back to last year when they had to go and play in Pittsburgh, Buck Allen finished with 19.7 PPR points. Alex Collins finished with 24.6. So they both were able to be fantasy relevant players. And if for whatever reason Baltimore falls behind in this game, he's the preferred pass catcher. They've kind of gone back to the timeshare that they had last year early in the season. So I think Allen is a pickup for this week. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a flex play like every single week, though.
I don't love him. Like, he's not sexy, but there's no running back that I really want. He does have 4 touchdowns. He is splitting the load in terms of touches and snaps with Alex Collins. And when Kenneth Dixon comes back, that's going to be cut up a little bit. But, and it could be one of these situations where, like, I can't believe bye week's already starting. But if your guy's on a bye, he's a guy that you pick up. That's Buck Allen. You pick him up for just 1 week and you use him.
Yeah, let's pretend that you have Chris Thompson. Obviously, Chris Thompson is like that pass catching role, and like if it was in a game like this, we'd be playing Chris Thompson. So Buck Allen,
same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. So let's go with Buck Allen as a flex play, filling in for Chris Thompson.
So how much do you spend on him? Like $2-3? I don't really want to spend anything.
It depends on your team, man, because like some teams, like I have some teams that I have Le'Veon Bell on, and they've started like 1-2 or even 0-3 on some of them, and it's really struggling. So if you need a win and you need to do it now, I'm willing to go up to like $10 if I have to for Buck Allen. Just know your league and know how they spend actively for running backs, especially those who are trying to stream the position. But, hopefully you don't have to spend that because if he's still on your waiver wire, he didn't have like a massive week or anything like that. So, but if you were forward thinking, like going back to, talking about I'm just going to remind everyone, I write an article that comes out every Saturday morning it's called Weekend Waiver Wire Stashes, where I take a look forward and I say, what are the matchup next week that people are going to be looking for? And Buck Allen was in that piece. So if you would have picked him up last week, you wouldn't have had to spend anything. Calvin Ridley was also in that piece. Geronimo Allison was also in that piece. Like there's a lot of these players that we talk about week over week where I try and look ahead for you guys to let you know these guys are available. Go grab them before it's like the cool thing to do, because you could have had Calvin Ridley on your roster for absolutely $0 last week.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get just outside our top 5 here in just a second, but a word from another one of our sponsors, NFL Game Pass. So like I said, I go back and I watch all the games on NFL Game Pass. They've got these condensed games where you can watch games in about 45 minutes, and obviously I watch some of the action on Thursdays and Sundays and Monday and everything like that. I love football, but only with NFL Game Pass can you replay every game all season. It's NFL football anytime on your time. There were so many great games this past weekend. A lot of people would think it was ugly. I love the Jaguars and Titans game because it was just such great defense. Yeah, the offenses weren't getting anything done, but it was just football the way it was made to be. I went back and watched every play of that, and it was just beautiful. With NFL Game Pass, you can replay them all from every angle. There's the broadcast version. It's commercial-free. There's coaches' film, which shows the all-22 angle the pros and coaches use. And then there's the condensed games like I talked about. Remember, with NFL Game Pass, it's game time anytime. Best of all, kick off the 2018 NFL season with a free 7-day trial of NFL Game Pass. Sign up now at NFL.com/fantasypros. That's NFL.com/fantasypros. Game on. All right, Tags, where do you have Antonio Callaway, man? Because we already mentioned Baker Mayfield is really good. He's the clear number 2 here. He also looks good. He's a big play threat. He runs solid routes for a rookie. He would have been a first-round pick if it wasn't for the off-the-field issues. So where do you have him, and how much would you spend on him?
I don't know if I would have put him in the first round conversation. He's definitely talented, and the reason he fell in the draft is obviously the off the field stuff. I probably would have given him a day 2 grade, like a second or third round pick. But still, either way, Callaway, he had a rough game on Thursday, man. Baker literally threw a pass that dropped into his basket and hit him in both hands, and he just dropped it. It literally could not have been a better ball. And then on a deep ball where he beat Morris Claiborne. It was just a bad route he took to the ball. Ended up, it wasn't a pass interference call because they said the defender was going for the ball, which was just stupid. But Callaway just didn't look great in that game. I feel like he's a rookie. He's going to make some mistakes.
Sure, but he was getting open downfield. He got 10 targets. What else can you ask for?
Morris Claiborne looked terrible in that game. Legit terrible. He was getting lost in coverage. On the play that hit Callaway in the hands, Claiborne didn't even know where the ball was. The ball, it bounced off Callaway's hands and went out of bounds, and Claiborne was looking around what just happened. He had no idea that the ball came in. I want to see him play, obviously, with Baker because he's going to develop some favorites, but I think David Njoku, if you can get him in a league right now, if you can trade for Njoku, I have him as a top 8 tight end for the rest of the year. And the reason is he's playing almost every snap. Baker Mayfield make his living off throwing to Mark Andrews while at Oklahoma. So I do believe David Njoku is going to be a stud going forward. So Callaway, I think he becomes the third option in the passing game. So it's just how much are the Browns really going to throw? So I'm a little cautious with him.
Only other guy I'm really willing to spend money on is Christian Kirk. He had a lot of targets, and yeah, this offense is a disaster, but it's not going to be this bad the whole season. I mean, they've had some tough matchups. I think that Christian Kirk looked fine, and I think he's someone that you can start half of weeks.
Yeah, I think part of it comes down to the fact that Larry Fitzgerald was dinged up, and I don't think he was 100% for this game. He only saw 2 targets. We haven't seen enough Josh Rosen, but they did announce him as the starter right before we went on to record the podcast, so he is the starter going forward. Him and Christian Kirk roomed together this offseason, so those two apparently developed a bond, and he was targeting Kirk when he got intercepted on that play down the sideline with the Bears, so that one's not a bad one. I just wish that Larry Fitzgerald, if he wasn't 100%, he would have been don't play me this week. But Steve Wilks, for whatever reason, said on Wednesday that, Larry Fitzgerald's going to play. I don't know. Steve Wilks he doesn't have the makings of a head coach. His offensive coordinator's terrible.
He seems lost, man.
Yeah, that defense is having trouble moving. I know Trubisky looked bad last week, so I'm not going to give the defense too much props there. I think a lot of that was on Trubisky. Kirk, I'm a little cautious on that one. I think I'd rather have Ryan Grant because Andrew Luck can't throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, you're right. I think I'd rather have Ryan Grant as well. I mean, he only had 3 targets, but again, he looked good. I think it's going to happen for him.
Yeah, that game was it was raining the entire time, so it's hard to take much away from that. But Ryan Grant, when he gets opportunities, he's making it work.
That red zone catch was beautiful.
Yeah, and that run game isn't doing anything right now. So I think Ryan Grant should be just fine.
Okay, we're gonna get to a few more running backs here, but let me give you 3 more wide receivers: Sterling Shepard, Robbie Anderson, Jordy Nelson. They're all available in at least 40-50% of leagues. So of these guys, would you put any of them ahead of Geronimo Allison?
Shepard,
okay.
For sure, yeah.
Not Robbie Anderson, though.
No.
Okay.
No, Robbie Anderson, I think, has 6 targets through 3 games?
Yeah, it hasn't been happening for him. I thought it would. I thought he was a gimme.
Yeah, Darnold just isn't willing to throw the ball down the field to him. He loves Quincy Enunwa. Enunwa's seen a 32% target share. It's something ridiculous. And there's no reason to stop going to him because he's been phenomenal. But yes, Sterling Shepard for sure. I think I would rather take Mike Williams than Sterling Shepard. Calvin Ridley is like in the same territory where I feel like they're going to be up and down some weeks. But if Evan Ingram is out, Sterling Shepard's the one who's going to see the majority of those targets over the middle of the field. So that's the area I have Sterling Shepard in.
I've got Shepard around, I've got him 33 right now. So behind Ridley and Williams, ahead of everyone else that we've mentioned. Anderson's not in the discussion. Jordy Nelson is even further back. So, this is what we expected of Nelson. Just a couple big games, and I think this one was kind of a fluke.
Now, here's a question for you, Bobby. I know there's some people that listen that they asked us to talk about waiver wire priority. So some waiver wires, instead of the fab, they have like a rolling list where it's like if you use your first waiver wire priority on a player, you go to the end of the line. So it's like you better wait to make sure you get a good waiver priority. Let's pretend someone has the number one waiver priority and Mike Williams, Calvin Ridley are available.
Not using it.
You would not?
No. I mean, that's why I'm not willing to spend $20 on Calvin Ridley or Mike Williams either, is because I don't think that they're league winners. I think that you're going to get one of these backup running backs who will be a league winner, and if I've got 80 fab left to spend, then I can get that guy. I'm not going to have it if I spend all this money on Ridley, so, I'll spend $15 on Ridley, 12 on Mike Williams, and if I get one of these guys, great. If not, I can go down and I can get Geronimo Allison, Chris Godwin, right?
That's fair. What if someone has Josh Gordon and they really need a wide receiver?
I think if you have Josh Gordon, then you're fine. That's your wide receiver.
I mean, it's possible, but it's also possible that things are just not right. And we've seen a lot of players get cut from New England after they couldn't pick up the system. So that
I think the difference between Ridley and Williams and whatever is your replacement level wide receiver, you can go out and get Ted Ginn almost any week. Paul Richardson almost any week. There's not that big of a difference between Mike Williams and Ted Ginn. So I would rather just save the money.
That's fair. I would debate it.
And save the priority.
I would definitely debate it.
Okay. All right, so running backs after Buck Allen. I think Buck Allen is an ugly pickup, but after Buck Allen, I've got Ty Montgomery, Theo Riddick, same kind of guys where they're going to get some work in the passing game. Would you spend anything on them, or is it just if I get them, I get them?
No, I have them way down. Like, I have them down at 22 and 24 on my list, so I'm not even touching those guys. Like, I don't want them on my team. The one I would consider is Nyheim Hines. I think people are kind of missing that he's the Darren Sproles of this offense. I know he hasn't done anything crazy yet. I don't think the team has become full together yet. Like, their offensive line has been missing their starting left tackle for all 3 games. Now they're down to the third string right tackle. Like, that team is like, it's crumbling. The interior of the offensive line is pretty decent. They're going to take some time, but they're all like the 2 of those guys are new. Like Slauson and Quentin Nelson are new. There's a lot of things wrong with that team. They're not going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to need to dump off. And I think Nyheim Hines is turning into like this PPR guy. Like, if you're in a PPR league, I think he's fine for like a bench stash that you could use during bye weeks. And I know nobody wants to hear this, but I used him in a cash lineup yesterday, and it worked out. It did, because he was only like 30. He was like 3,400, I think. And I was like, if I get 8 points out of him, he hits value. So I'm going to play him. And I think he got like 9.6 or something. It was probably terrible on my part, but the rain played into that, and I ended up cashing, so I'm happy. Tournaments, not so much. Even though I had Calvin Ridley, I screwed up my tournament lineup so bad.
Well, we're using like Latavius Murray, Blake Bortles, or any of the chalk plays.
Latavius Murray was in a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was owned in 80% of cash games, though.
Yep, I had Traquan Smith because I thought like that could be a week for him to break out. Instead, Cameron Meredith was finally active, and that ruined that. There was just some bad calls I made on my punt plays that I was trying for in like the 1% guys. But Nyheim Hines is like, I feel like he's going to be a bye week filler that's better than most of the players you could find on the waiver wire.
Okay. So you like him more than Theo Riddick?
I do. I think Theo Riddick's starting to lose his role because Kerryon Johnson, people don't realize Kerryon Johnson is not only, he obviously looked really good running the ball last night, even though New England just looks terrible on defense.
Well, everyone was hurt.
Well, they were, but still, like, they feel that they were not even touching Kerryon Johnson. Like, he
has to have a 100 juke rating on Madden. He was so good.
Yeah, he looked really good last night, but he's a pass catcher too. And I think that we saw Theo Riddick's snaps come down last night because Kerryon Johnson was in the game more. So I think they're going to start going to him more and more. And I think we're going to start to see Theo Riddick fade just a little bit. Theo Riddick, he's like a fine guy to pick up for a waiver wire, but I don't like for a bye week. Like, if it's in a matchup where Detroit's going to be down or in a shootout, that's fine. But I think Hines is going to turn into more of like a high floor weekly play.
Okay. All right. Any other running backs you want to talk about? Yeah, no, it is so ugly. But let's say that Chris Carson is still available in your league. Would you get him over Kenny Golladay?
No, hell no.
What? Chris Carson ran the ball 31 times.
I know, but Galladay's an every week starter.
I'd spend my entire fab budget on him. Are you serious?
Hold on, let's not forget that he literally scored the first rushing touchdown for Seattle since like week 6 of last year or something like that. Like Seattle has now after that one, I took full credit for that, by the way, because I tweeted it out last week that the Seahawks running backs had combined for 1 rushing touchdown the last 18 games. And so I think I deserve credit for that Chris Carson touchdown. And I'm not going to bet on that happening every single week. So, I mean, Rashad Penny's not just going to go to the bench and they're going to forget about him. Like, obviously, 32 carries is, like, ridiculous. But at the same time, nah.
He had more carries in that week than Matt Breida, Phillip Lindsay, Kenyon Drake have had all season.
Oh, no, I get that. And that's the thing. I mean, obviously, Carson would be he'd be somebody I'd pick up for sure. But I wouldn't put him in front of Mike Williams. No, I might because running back is scarce, but it's close, man. Like,
are you trying to lose your leagues?
Galladay, definitely not. Like, I'm not going to overreact to 1 week. Carson sucked.
Man.
Hold on a second. Carson sucked before this week, and I'm not going to overreact to one game. If I see a trend, it's like the whole Amari Cooper thing, and I've learned my lesson in that I was like, no, I'm not willing to go all in on Amari Cooper because it's so inconsistent, and I'm not trusting 1 week with 10 targets. And then here we go again, week 3. Amari Cooper.
It's different with running backs, man. I mean, we saw Lee Evans get 20 targets 1 week with the Buffalo Bills, right? If you go from 7 to 6 to 32 rushes, that is a different thing. Pete Carroll finally got his way. He looked good. And of course, he wasn't going to do much at Denver, at Chicago.
Chris Carson had 6 carries the week before.
Yeah. And then they realized that they need to give him the ball. And when they did, it was awesome.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The same thing happened with Amari Cooper. They threw it the ball 10 times. Good things happen, and then the next week happen, and then he has 2 catches.
Yeah, but we see this with wide receivers where they go 4 targets, 20 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets. We don't see that with running backs.
Carson's the lead guy.
If you get 32 carries, you're the dude.
Carson's the lead guy there for sure, but at the same time, I'm not like 100% trusting him. Like for the remainder of the season, I think at best, I'd put him as like RB30 at best.
Wow, man. You are nuts in my opinion. Okay, so a couple other running backs here. Let's say Aaron Jones, Peyton Barber, Austin Eckler are there. Alfred Morris too, we'll put him in there. Of those 4 guys, which one would you prefer?
Definitely Aaron Jones.
Oh, really? Okay.
Jamal Williams is done. I think that the Green Bay run game needs a relief. They need to give the pass game some relief, and he hasn't done that. At some point, the pass protection isn't going to be enough.
Okay. He hasn't broken a single tackle all season.
It's been terrible. Like he has looked like the most mediocre running back that you could possibly imagine. And then Aaron Jones came in, looked better. Aaron Jones had more carries, and now they have Buffalo coming to their house that they need to win. I believe that Aaron Jones is on the field more than Jamal Williams, and I think that he's my preferred play this week.
Okay, wow.
Aaron Jones would be someone that, I mean, Carson I'd probably rather have over him, but it's close. It's close.
It's not close for me, not even a question. Between the 4, I would take Austin Eckler. And Peyton Barber, I think we'll see tonight what they're going to do with him because he was ugly the first 2 weeks, but he's getting the carries. He's the lead back. I think Barber would be worth owning. Any deep plays that you just love at running back, or is it just whoever's going to get the most targets because you want a pass catching back?
No, not really. I honestly, the waiver wire this week is just so dire. Like I'm going to be going through the matchups in the primer, obviously, and talking about some players that have sleeper potential. Like, but it requires you to dig a little bit deeper. There's no obvious plays here, and like even at the tight end position, I mean, Dallas Goedert, he's a backup tight end. I know he had a big week. He's a backup tight end. Mark Andrews, another one. He's going to be a backup tight end. Like Hayden Hurst is returning to the lineup very shortly. I like Mark Andrews, and he's like pass catching only because he's terrible at blocking. But these guys are not like someone that you need to go out and like spend a whole bunch of money on. I believe you could find a streamer any given week and be fine.
Yeah. I'm looking at the options, and Nyheim Hines is one of those guys that's a deeper play. You can pick him up, or Wendell Smallwood. I would feel terrible about it, but if you need a body, you need a body. And at wide receiver, it's the same kind of thing. You've got Albert Wilson, Cordell Patterson, who's hardly being used. Traquan Smith is the guy that I would point most to. James Washington, I think, is going to get more involved eventually, or probably sooner than later. So for deeper leagues, that's who I would go for. Okay, I got a couple questions from the mailbag, then we'll end the show, Tags. The first one here is from Dante on Twitter. What the heck do I do with Andrew Luck? And that is a great question. My answer, I'm cutting him. I mean, unless it's in one of these leagues where, like, you have to pick up the QB 21 as your quarterback, then I would hang on to Luck. But right now, I've got him rest of the season QB 16.
No, I mean, I think Luck's value is going to go up after this week, honestly. They're playing the Texans. They're going to be at home. The Texans, I think, are going to put up points in the Colts. And in return, the Colts offense, I think with the way that Houston's designed, I think they're going to struggle with the Colts offense because Colts are going to run like a quick, get the ball out quick type of thing. Like, if you look at Eli Manning and the game plan that the Giants had last week against the Texans, it was perfect. Get the ball out quick. I looked at the advanced stats on that, and Eli Manning averaged it was the second lowest amount of time to get the ball out of his hands last week. So they game plan perfectly. And I think Andrew Luck's going to do something similar this week against them. That should be a higher scoring game than I think people anticipate. So I'd hold on to him for this week. And if your league likes to trade for quarterbacks, then trade him afterwards. But if they don't, then I view him as a streamer going forward. I don't view him as a must play every single week. He's a streamer.
I thought he had a lot of upside, but if they're not even willing to let him throw a Hail Mary ball, I think that his upside's limited.
His arm is just not where it needs to be. And his average depth of target is terrible, by the way. Like, here's a fun stat. I was looking at NFL's Next Gen stats earlier today, and T.Y. Hilton, the last time that he played with Andrew Luck, he averaged 13.5 air yards per target, okay? This year, it's down to like 8.2 yards per target. And he's like down towards he's more towards the bottom half of the league than he is towards the top. So Andrew Luck he's turned into a check down guy that he'll throw, he might throw a ball 20, 25 yards, but he's not throwing the ball deep anymore.
So I got another tweet from Michael on Twitter. We didn't talk about this one tags before the show, but Michael says he has Le'Veon Bell, and suddenly he's getting a lot of trade talk for him. People are offering him. Is now the time to sell? Because he's going to have to learn a new playbook, or is he going to go into a new offense, maybe Tampa, and just dominate right away?
Well, if he goes to a new team, they're going to use him right away. Like, he's going to be a workhorse. Like, they're not going to waste time because you're basically doing a rent-a-player situation because you can't sign him to a contract officially until after the season. So,
but how much does his receiving value take a hit? Is he still a top 5 fantasy player rest of the season?
Depends on the offense, man. If he goes to the Jets, because the Jets are apparently one of the teams that reached out to the Steelers and are interested. If he goes to the Jets, no, I don't view him as a top 5 running back going forward.
Yeah, put him with Jameis though. I got him top 5.
I don't know. That would be close because that would be close.
Or the Colts.
I don't think the Colts are even thinking about trading for him because they're not in a win now mode. But I would put him if he landed with the Bucks or the Jets, in that, I'd probably put him around the RB8 range. I don't think I'd put him ahead of Fournette or any of those guys.
But here's the thing, I know I'm going to make the fantasy playoffs in my home leagues. The expert leagues, that's different. It's a lot more of a challenge. No offense to my friends, but I do this all day, every day. I get paid to do this. So I'm going to make the playoffs. I want the best players in the playoffs. And if I can get Le'Veon Bell, I think he's a top 3 player in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. I think people don't understand what the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line did for Le'Veon Bell. I also don't think that they understand how a running back tied to a high-scoring offense like the Steelers, it matters for fantasy football. So Le'Veon will drop down, and it's the same concern I had with David Johnson, same thing I had with Ezekiel Elliott, where it's these guys, they're superstars for sure, but if they're not in the right offense, they're never going to live up to the potential that we've placed on them. And I think the Steelers was the best case scenario for Le'Veon Bell.
I think so too. All right, last question, and this one kind of fits in. We'll figure out exactly where you do have Bell. Ben on Twitter wants to know, if we were to host a fantasy draft today, what would the first round look like? Why don't you run through your top 6, then I'll go my top 6, then we'll close it out with our bottom 6.
Yeah, so I love the question because I was able to think about it. So my top 6 right now would be Gurley, number 1, Kamara 2, Melvin Gordon, number 3, Saquon Barkley, number 4, Michael Thomas, number 5, and Antonio Brown, number 6.
Okay, I've got Gurley number 1, Gordon number 2, Antonio Brown number 3, Barkley 4, Kamara 5, Thomas 6.
Yeah, we have the same exact 6, just in a different order.
Yeah. All right, what about 7 through 12 here?
So mine goes Zeke, Leonard Fournette, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, and then it's one of these 3.
You got Fournette up there?
I do have Fournette up there because if we're drafting today, that means he's healthy going forward.
I guess so.
I believe he is healthy, and this team needs him enough with the whole Blake Bortles talk. But then the last one after Julio and Odell, it would be one of Hopkins, Devontae Adams, or Tyreek Hill. Honestly, Tyreek, he had a down game, and I know that some people are going to be like, oh my God, Mike, you totally changed. But watching him with Mahomes, it's this offense, there's just so many problems, and Sammy Watkins is starting to create a name for himself, which means teams can't just say, oh, we're going to stop Tyreek and let's let Sammy Watkins beat us. Sammy Watkins was always good at football, guys. I don't know why people think that he wasn't, and he actually scored. It wasn't Patrick Mahomes who scored the touchdown this week. It was Sammy Watkins after the catch. But yeah, at the end of the first round, it would be tough because I think I would take one of those receivers over David Johnson. I
don't have David Johnson in my top 14 either. I also don't have Fournette. Tyreek Hill is not especially close. I've got him at the end of the second round. My 7 through 12 is a lot different than yours. Zeke at 7, Kareem Hunt at 8, Julio at 9, Beckham at 10, and then Mixon and Bell at 11 and 12.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, probably should have thought about Mixon maybe there at the end of that over one of the receivers. But I can't believe
McCaffrey at 13.
And now you see, I wouldn't put him there. So the McCaffrey, I know he had 28 carries, guys, and I get that. That's all fine and dandy, and he had a career high in rushing yards. But the Bengals defense, missing their starting defensive tackle, he got hurt in the game. They're missing their best linebacker. They were missing Michael Johnson, one of their best edge rushers. That defense basically just did not show up. And the fact that that happened and Christian McCaffrey still didn't score a friggin' touchdown is scary. It means that
you're right.
Like, he doesn't have the upside to live up to that first round pick. Like, you want someone who's like people are scared to play against. McCaffrey's like, okay, this guy's going to score points. Like, he's got an awesome floor. Like, I still stand by. I felt like he was a good second round pick. I didn't know why people were taking him in the first round. I still stand by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough one. I'm mixing.
It's fun. I want to do one of these leagues where you start in week 3 and just see what it feels like.
Do it.
Well, I'm too busy.
That's how I feel. That's why
I'm already in 9,000 leagues, man. And I've got Joe Mixon and Doug Baldwin in all of them, so it's not looking good.
But yeah, that's how the first round would go. For me, I mean, at least like until that 12th pick, that's where things are gonna get like dicey. But yeah, it feels weird, man. Feels weird.
All right, man. Well, that's all for today's show. That was a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys have some success picking up Mike Williams, Calvin Ridley, or if Chris Carson and Kenny Golladay are there, go for it. Thanks to the sponsors of today's show, Leesa Mattress, where you can get $160 off your mattress purchase at leesa.com/fantasypros, and NFL Game Pass, where if you go to nfl.com/fantasypros, you'll get a 7-day free trial to NFL Game Pass. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.